The Galactic Predator Registry had been operating for millennia, cataloging every species worth hunting across the known galaxy. The Zephyrians maintained meticulous records, environmental preferences, pack behavior, combat capabilities, and most importantly, entertainment value. For a species that had evolved beyond the need for sustenance hunting, the thrill of the chase had become their primary cultural export. Commander Vexthul studied the newest entry with predatory interest. Homo sapiens, bipedal mammals from a small blue world in the Orion Arm. The preliminary scouts had returned with promising data, primitive technology, fragmented tribal structures, and an apparent lack of natural defenses. Perfect prey. Physical capabilities appear limited, reported Scout Leader Kethris, her chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the ship's bioluminescent lighting. No claws, minimal body armor, average speed. They seem to rely primarily on crude projectile weapons and basic metallurgy. Vexthul's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. Excellent. The clients are growing bored with the Andromedans. Too predictable. How many hunting permits should we issue? The initial assessment suggests we could sustain several dozen hunting expeditions without significantly impacting their population. They breed prolifically and seem concentrated in specific geographic regions. Within a standard rotation, the Apex Seeker had established orbit around Earth. The first hunting party descended toward a region the humans called Afghanistan, mountainous terrain that would provide excellent sport. The hunting party consisted of 6 Zephyrian nobles, each equipped with energy dampeners to limit their technological advantage and ensure a fair hunt. Lord Sithek led the expedition, his chrome carapace scarred from 1,000 successful hunts across the galaxy. The humans they encountered initially behaved as expected, fleeing in terror when confronted by the 3-meter-tall arachnoid aliens. The chase through the rocky valleys proved moderately entertaining, but something was wrong. The humans weren't just running, they were leading. The realization struck Sithek too late. The narrow canyon his party had pursued their prey into wasn't a desperate escape route, it was a carefully chosen battlefield. As the hunting party advanced, primitive explosives detonated along the canyon walls, crude but effective. One of his companions fell, his exoskeleton cracked by falling stone. But that was merely the opening move. From concealed positions that shouldn't have been possible to reach, primitive projectiles began raining down. Not the random panic fire they'd expected, but coordinated, precise shots targeting weak points in their armor that no primitive species should have known existed. How do they know? Kethris transmitted over their comm channel, her voice strained as she sought cover. The answer came in a form none of them expected. One of the humans, they'd learned to call them soldiers, emerged from concealment. But instead of fleeing or mounting a desperate final attack, he approached under a makeshift truce banner. He spoke in broken Zephyrian, learned from their ship's communications. "We know you," the soldier said, his scarred face showing no fear. "Sky hunters. We studied your kind." "Impossible," Sithek replied. "This is your first contact with galactic civilization." The human smiled, an expression the Zephyrians would later learn to fear above all others. "No. We found wreckage. Old ship. Very old. We learned your language, your tactics, your weaknesses." The human gestured to the canyon walls. "You hunt for sport. We fight for survival, different things." What followed wasn't a hunt. It was an education. The humans had indeed found a crashed Zephyrian vessel, centuries old, forgotten by record keepers who'd written off a routine patrol ship. But humans, they learned, forgot nothing useful. Over generations, they'd reverse-engineered technology, studied anatomy, learned language, and prepared. Not for invasion, for this moment. The surviving hunting party managed to return to their ship, but the damage was done. Not just to their numbers, but to their understanding. These primitive humans had turned their own predatory instincts against them, had planned for a first contact scenario with the patience of a species that thought in generations rather than cycles. But the real shock came during the evacuation. As the Apex Seeker prepared to depart, their sensors detected multiple primitive spacecraft launching from the planet's surface. Crude chemical rockets that should have been centuries away from threatening a galactic-class vessel. The first missile struck their port engines. The second hit their communications array. The third punched through their supposedly impenetrable shields using a focused electromagnetic pulse that shouldn't have been possible with human technology. As the Apex Seeker limped away from Earth, emergency life support failing, Vexthul received a transmission on a frequency that required intimate knowledge of Zephyrian communication protocols. "This is Colonel Sarah Chen, United Earth Defense Command. Message for the Galactic Predator Registry." The voice was calm, professional, terrifying in its certainty. "Humanity is officially withdrawing from your hunting catalog. Any future expeditions to this system will be considered acts of war." A pause. "We've been preparing for you for 300 years. Come back if you want to find out what we've learned." The transmission ended with coordinates, precise locations of every Zephyrian outpost within 50 light-years, locations that were classified beyond the highest security levels. The report that Vexthul filed upon returning to Zephyr Prime was brief. Species reclassified. Homo sapiens, apex predator. Do not engage. In the cycles that followed, word spread through the galactic hunting community. The humans weren't prey. They were the thing that turned prey into predators. They were the species that had looked at the galaxy's apex hunters and said, "We need to be ready for them." The Galactic Predator Registry quietly removed Earth from all hunting catalogs. Some things, they realized, were too dangerous to hunt, even for sport.